What's going on, everybody? King Lofty here, and we're kicking off this channel with an excellent tool that I use every single day for I can't even count on two hands how many things that I use this tool for. It's called Windows Subsystem for Linux. Now, WSL, it's an incredible tool. It allows users on Windows to run a Linux environment directly without having to dual boot or even install any kind of virtual machine. Um, it uses Hyper-V capabilities to be able to run actual Linux kernel on WSL2. Um, so that gives you the ability to run command line tools, L64 binaries. You can install multiple tools like Git, Tmux, Vim, Nano. You can run Bash scripts or Linux applications like PostgreSQL, MySQL, and you can use it as a IDE as well. Various different languages: Python, Ruby, Rust, Go, Java, C#. There's tons of them. So WSL is the original. WSL2 is the newer version. Its primary goal was to increase file system performance and add full system call compatibility. It runs the same way as WSL. It just allows for the use of a more robust file system, how the file system is stored on your Windows hard drive, and it allows for the use of a real Linux kernel. They can be used interchangeably, WSL and WSL2. By default, WSL2 is enabled, but you can change that easily. WSL2 is compatible with Docker, so you can run Docker images while using WSL2. All right, I'd like to get into installation. So a couple of prereqs. You want to come down here and go to About My PC. Alright, so WSL, it can only run on build number 19041 and higher, or on Windows 11. So anything before 2004, I think, you can't use WSL. But, if you're buying a brand new laptop or PC these days, that's not going to be an issue because you got the 21H1 out now that's stock on everything. So as we can see, I am eligible to use WSL. So the next thing I want to check is I want to go to my apps and features. You can just search it down here, or you could also right click and go to your settings and then apps and features. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click over here on the right side, programs and features under related settings. And once that pops up, a little extra window here for you. Open up on the wrong side for me. We're going to go over here, and you see this, you're going to need administrator privileges. Turn Windows features on or off. Now, it used to be with WSL, you had to come in and you would have to check Hyper-V, and you would have to check virtual machine platform and Windows Subsystem for Linux, right? I'm not going to click it now because if we open up a PowerShell window, administrator PowerShell window, and we can just run WSL install. Now, one other thing I should mention before doing this, you can add this D flag and then the distribution of your choice. By default, I did mention earlier that WSL2 was going to be enabled, and you'll get the latest Linux kernel, and you'll get Ubuntu by default, it will install it and set it as your default. So if you don't want Ubuntu, if you want Kali Linux, say, you would use this D flag, Kali Linux, and then you would press enter, and it would, download Kali Linux for you. For this tutorial, however, we're just going to do plain WSL install. And this is going to go through a whole installation period, usually I want to say maybe 5 to 10 minutes depending, and it'll go through and it'll install WSL, it'll download the kernel and install it, and then it'll tell you operation successful, changes will not be effective until the system is rebooted. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to reboot. And so as we come back in, we're going to want to go into the Microsoft Store. Once that loads up here in the top search bar, you want to type in Ubuntu. And first one to pop up, Ubuntu. So once that is finished downloading from the Microsoft Store, you can see it popped up in your recently added. Open that up and it'll install, yada yada, take a few minutes, it'll do its thing. Then it's going to ask you to create a username and password. Now this is the first time that we are opening Ubuntu, so this process won't take as long after we go through this whole process. So for me, this is going to be King Lofty 7, and we'll do some weird password like lick my toes 1. Right? Okay. And it says right here, you'll see this message once a day. To disable it, create the hush login file. If you don't mind seeing all of this every time you log in, it doesn't take long to pop up. I mean, I honestly don't even bother with making that hush file, because as you can see, boom. I mean, it's not bad. So a little bit more in depth. I've got this shortcut here. I'm not sure. Oh, it's gonna pop up over here. Okay, so this is the path that it is saved under. Whatever, if you have Kali, it'll say WSL. Kali Linux, Debian, it'll say Debian, and then your home directory, and then your user directory. Everything will be saved here. So if we can kind of do it like this, you'll see I can do git clone, and then I gotcha. Right. Recon dog, clone it. No, I did that one wrong. But as you can see, you save it, it lands right in here. And that goes, I mean, I can come out of here and I can do and then after I make the directory, I can touch a file, right? I mean, there's just so much stuff. I mean, literally anything that you can do. You can run GUI applications through this. You can run anything that needs a Linux kernel. I mean, Mongo database, Postgres, Django apps. You name it, you can do it. Right? I mean, look how convenient that is. Right? So you might be wondering why I would use this. You know, I'm just an everyday guy. You know, what do I need to use this for? And primarily, this tool is for developers, specifically web developers, who are deploying cross-platform apps that are being deployed to Linux server environments, right? Anybody who likes using Linux tools, Linux first frameworks like Ruby, Python, Bash, anyone interested in Bash scripting would get a kick out of using this. I mean, it's just an all-around great tool to have in your arsenal, kind of stuff like I just did. So yeah, that's it. WSL and WSL2 in a nutshell. Be sure to like and comment. Leave me your thoughts, any other tools you'd like to see, and I'll get on that. Thanks for stopping in.